Be getting the heaters on you. Come on up, move up, don't be shy. We should move some chairs back. We can do one or the other. We'll do one or the other, okay. Hop back, let's move some chairs back. Well, actually, guys, do me a favor. This board is taped down. Stuart, you be brave. Do me a favor. All right. Oh, come on up the front. No. Come on up. Come on, guys.
That's good.
Mike.
Yeah, got a couple more here.
In the mic.
All right, into the mic. Come on up. Come on up. There you go.
You only told us like 6 times.
I like it.
The heat's right here, so
It is warm up there.
it is warmer. Alrighty. So, we're going to talk about outdoor living pavilions. Before we get started, I want to have your guys' help. So just think about outdoor living pavilions you've seen and the wish list and things that people wanted, things that they, so on and so forth. Okay? Let's do that. So, give me some ideas. What do people like to see in an outdoor pavilion? What activities? Anyone want to start?
Sometimes a fireplace,
Fireplace.
That's big.
cooking.
Cooking. So cooking and barbecue.
Yeah.
What else?
Hot tub.
Hot tub. Okay. Hot tub. Another one. Let's see. Just relaxing. Extension of, I'll put living room extension.
Conversation bit.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Conversation bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Like hang out.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay. You betcha. So we have cooking, that means sinks. One thing that is, you see that sometimes, radiant heat. What else might be on the wish list?
Well, you gotta have ceiling fan if you're gonna have heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus ceiling fan. Any other list? Any other ideas what might be on your wish list if you're doing this?
Entertainment.
Entertainment, so TV.
TV, speakers, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about lighting. Minecraft.
Okay. Lighting. Good point. Maybe some sort of bar, sink, refrigerator.
No bar. They can be dry bars.
We have kind of a list here. We'll come up with a few more.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I don't know how many of you guys are actively looking to cover a patio roof. Show of hands. Anyone? Okay. So I have a prediction with your guys' patio roof. It has something to do with Mike Tyson. Has something in common with Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm. They're both ruthless.
Wow. I was trying to think about light in the ear or something. I was like, where are we going with this?
Where are we going with this? Yeah. So with patio covers, whether you're doing one in the future or helping a client do one, whatever it is, with anything worthwhile, it's safe to say that there's some pain or risk associated with it, right? And just like being in the ring with Mike Tyson, you want to have your feet set, be able to move and dance with things as they progress. So there's 3 quotes for mental clarity.
No, I was just thinking about Mike Tyson.
Oh, okay. I'll cover your
I was
ears.
covering my ears.
So there's 3 quotes just to kind of mentally be set for, just to make sure you have a fun time with whatever passes down in your pavilion. First one is the progress isn't always linear. So how many of you has, whether it's buying a car or taking on some project, you think, okay, we're going to do X. But the path there a lot of times goes all over the place. It can be really frustrating. So that's one message we give our clients is progress isn't linear and it can be very messy as it goes through. And this right here is what clients typically will go through. You have fun with ideas. Education can be a bit of a downer because they get disappointed or get confused or overwhelmed. And then team building and digital design, and it just kind of follows a trajectory like this, with most people finishing up somewhere on the upper side of happy. Another quote for taking on projects and getting things done in life is by Dwight Eisenhower. He said, "Plans are worthless." You don't like to hear this, David. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. And I think what he means by that is, as we move forward with chasing our goals and our journeys, that once we hit, there's going to be new information that comes at us, and yesterday's plans may or may not apply. So they could be worthless. But the planning and awareness is going to help you make good decisions moving forward. So planning is everything. Plans, I should say, can be worthless. Right. And then the other quote, maybe even more succinct than that, comes from Mike Tyson. He said, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." And that's kind of how it is. But not that you're going to get whacked in the face. It's going to be that difficult with an outdoor living pavilion. So I promise you top 3 things to consider when doing a pavilion. And this may seem too simplistic. Top 3 things: what, how, and why. Most people, when they think of what is most important about building a pavilion or any project they're taking on, the minds immediately rush into the specifics of what. Granite countertops, fireplace, heating, skylights, whatever it is. What is the most important? And Simon Sinek has a book that says, "Start with why." Has anyone read it? Anyway, it's very good. But I found out with myself and observing clients and how they think and how they move forward, that they generally dive into the details, kind of what do they want, then they start thinking about how they're going to do it, and only when things start to get frustrating or they get confused do they pull back and say, what am I doing here? What am I trying to accomplish? And that's when they pull back. And so that's why I structured it in this order. So specifically dealing with what, before we get into countertops, fireplaces, size, seating, one really good question is it going to be design driven or budget driven? And if you're working with David, he's an architect, I'm sure you've hit positions where you wish clients would have told you that this was more budget driven than design driven after you went around the racetrack and done X, Y, Z, right? So there can be a lot of time and suffering avoided by doing that. Now this is, don't leave design ideas on the table. And this is kind of a hard sell. Generally, when we're on a project, whether it's solving something for a sawmill or whatever, it's like swimming in the ocean, and then all of a sudden we find a buoy, we can latch onto it. There's our solution. The message here is leave that buoy for a little bit, search for another floating object or something else, because your brain won't move forward if you don't ask it to, and your first idea probably isn't the best. It's better, if you keep going, you'll either get a better idea, or your other ideas might not be better, but something will improve idea number 1. Make sense? Okay, and then Just decide what you're not going to do. According to Michael Porter, he's a Harvard professor focused on strategy. And he said that strategy really is about what you're not going to do. And people, Josh has seen this a lot, people can say what they don't like much easier than what they do like. So when you do something like that, you get some blinders and you can kind of focus a little bit more on where you're going on some rails. Okay, how? This is really about how you are as a person, how you roll. And then you might ask yourself, especially with hires, hiring people, whether it's a subcontractor, an employee, whatever it is, or a wife, we're all guys here. No, but really it's what kind of behaviors, done or undone, make me just grind my teeth and just super angry. You can think about that for yourself. And then likewise, what kind of behaviors, done or undone, make you smile. And doing that will raise your awareness and potentially save you from a bad relationship. Steve, you've probably went through some hires and some work out and some don't, right? Mm-hmm. And then as far as the patio cover, we talked about this, the extension of the living room, it's a worthwhile pursuit, for someone enjoy their relaxing. And also, a lot of times, the driving factor is, hey, I'm gonna have my friends over, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna connect with my kids and my grandkids. It's just another way to improve relationships. So here is less similar to what we have got together. We talked about a fireplace, the seating, the bar, the TV, radiant heating, some natural light. A lot of times when you're putting an attached pavilion on, one of the problems people talk about is, I don't know if I want my living room that dark. So one fix is to load it with skylights. We have a couple examples for you. And of course, size and position. Then you got some things that are going to be limit what you do, may or may not limit what you do. And then one other thing that really goes to with the pavilion, what you're trying to accomplish, is style blending. When it's done right, it does not look like an addition. It looks cohesive. And even building with new plans, we've got one example where I show you where we take from what's going on in the front, and we take design elements and use that on the back as well. And so there's a lot of different tips and tricks, from the building materials, the colors and textures that can be mixed with the timbers, so it's not like socks on a rooster. So makes sense so far? Okay, here the how is, again, it's about you and how you roll, making the right hire. By far, as a business owner, by far, my biggest mistakes and my biggest successes have been hiring, hands down. Anyone else share the same experience? Yep. So when you think about how you roll, are you more of a handshake type of a person, or do you really drill down on the contract and try to get everything dialed? If I've seen people way over here, you encourage them to get over here so there's some communication. Then if we run into people that are way over here with a contract, we run. No, that's, they just don't have energy for that. And, if they're not a trust factor, hey, we shouldn't be doing business, right? So it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. I mean, it's a big red flag. And, if you're going to be wanting things lined up like dominoes, ready to go. And then one other thing to think about is how you and whoever's helping you make decisions, how do you guys go about it? Is there a process? Some people, if they know they overthink things and never get to a decision, they can address that by process ahead of time. And then why, we talked about it, outdoor living pavilion. When we talk about detached or outdoor patio cover, when we talk about detached pavilions, there's different, it's not really an extension of the living room, it's more of a destination and an event center. We'll get into that as well. One thing that helps people, whether it's you or a client or someone, is if you can take what you're hoping to achieve and boil it down to 3 to 7 words, that can really be helpful when you're making decisions, because there's, from products to building materials to everything, there's so many decisions. If you can have kind of that clarity that, okay, is this decision pulling me towards or away from where we want to go? And a lot of times, this may be ROI, may be something you're after, return on investment. That, and how much will your neighborhood support, as far as how much money to put into your patio cover. Okay. It started with this project because so many people come to us and they want, can you just put a pavilion right next to my house? And I'll still get this, and why do you suppose they say that? Bingo, that's the biggest reason. They don't know what to do. Part of it, they infer that a patio cover just stuck next to the house is going to be less complicated and less money. And they're right. But it by far the biggest thing is imagination. They don't know what it could be. And so this particular client came to us and really talked like this. And we don't try to talk them out of it. We said, okay, we'll draw that up, but for your own interest, it'd be good to look at what it might look like attached. And so here's what became of when it attached. And you can see it's got the stone and the TV and everything gets unified. And this right here will function to a degree, but it really isn't going to add any value to the house, and it may even detract. Mm-hmm.
You can't get out that window.
Right. And so I've done that one time only. It was a really unique situation. And even then, I'm not entirely happy with it, and it's not in here for a reason. Okay, so I'm going to go through the rest of these pictures here, and I'm going to ask you guys to call out some of the wish list items that you see in this project, okay? Okay, that's the last one. Just stop there. So what are some of the wish list items you've seen? Fireplace. Radiant heat. Skylights. Hot tub.
Seating.
Comfy chairs, yep. They can generally maybe 10 people would squish a little bit with a wood bench in there. Which this, by the way, was kind of a labor of love. You can see its form fit, scribe fit there against the rocks. And even the stones right here. See how that fits on the stones? The stones were existing. And labor of love, there's all kinds of really fun ways to lose money in this business.
I lost the feed to it when I go. Yeah, sure.
See, let me check my notes here for you. Okay, one other point on this particular project.
Oh,
You gotta go back here.
thank you.
lot of times the constraints or what you're dealing with the design will influence the style to a degree. In this case, you see the ridge comes down and goes over. Oops. How did that happen? Okay, so the ridge comes down, and this valley is pretty close right here. We had to really get kind of picky and get crunch numbers to make sure that our headroom on this elevated deck and the pitch of the roof, we needed 10 inches minimum to really have that valley be watertight. So just considerations there. Here's the barbecue. This one here. Oh, on this barbecue, this is a little bit tight. Cheap stuff. Okay, that's it for that. So going back here, what did you notice on this picture that wish list items? So the fireplace, fire pit here in construction, and one particular point here, I'm going to zoom this in. Oh, I forgot to say, online, if there's questions, Lucas, you can interrupt. We'll take questions anytime you got them. We'll just take them as they come. So feel free to interrupt. And, but you can see there's caps on all this wood. That's copper. This is a project with a bigger budget. But it can be done with metal. If you are going to have wood exposed over time, don't forget it. I mean, it's just a matter of 5 years and the rot has started. Just, in fact, when we design corbels and that, we generally stay away from this unless people are dead set on it. And we just put corbels under the eaves and you get away from this proud look, but it's generally worth it because
The swamp takes it back.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and then this one happened to have this was a big set of windows, but the door is right here, kitchen there, and staying dry going into this big unit here. It's built for entertainment. I mean, it's how many people do you suppose you could cook hamburgers for? They got a big kitchen in there. How many people do you suppose that place could handle?
2 or 3.
2 or 3? Yeah. Wide loads. No, he said 50. I suppose it's there. I think they regularly did. Some of it was catered in, but another feature on this, they kind of went all out. This is all stone. Soapstone sink. I don't know what. I know about it because it held things up, right?
Yeah.
But people having fun. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, here's a project we did in Alaska. And I'm going to show, on this particular plan, I'm going to show you what we were given a floor plan from the builder, Falcon Homes, Woods Warden Homes, but we were given a floor plan and we worked with kind of roofs and elevation and timbers. And I'll show you, bring you through our progressions. Here's where we ended up. One thing in an earlier progression, you'll see we had a roof that extended over the whole thing, thinking snow off the deck is going to be the best. But not living in Alaska, there's the whole thing about sun. They wanted a place to get sun when it did come out. right? So that's one of the changes that was made. This deck was, the master bedroom is here, so they have access to the deck. You got a little furniture up there, but I think this picture was taken right after it's built, so it doesn't have all the comfy furniture you see in some of them and the whole living experience. Okay, so here's the floor plan to start with. There's the front, and then we're going modern here, so and there's the back. You can see the back that this roof got axed. This ended up getting changed. I'll show you that. And then the whole curve over here to catch front doors. And then here was kind of more of the final thing. You can see you've got the curve here and there, which then is replicating it back. And so it feels really cohesive for the whole thing. And this Y post piece here, it goes from A to Z and just really complements the whole project. And there's the back as it is. Oh, one other thing, that the roof we had on the original thing sloped up the other way, but the eastern sun was a big thing for them because it comes up sometimes at 10 or 11 a day, and they want to capture that. And the outdoor living patio roof fixes nice. With this project, as well as the one we just looked at, a common need, or I wouldn't guess you don't call it a need, but it feels good when you can be in a sheltered place looking out. It's kind of a primal instinct. And when you've got a view and you're up high, a patio roof cover is the bomb. You see this here. The other place they're looking at a lake, but it just feels good. It's protected. You kind of get to feel like a little bit of a king. Sometimes you get some pretty cool views. Okay, I think this is the last of our attached patio roofs here. And this one, bring you through it and see what you guys notice. Okay. Okay, what do you guys notice on this one?
There's some special lighting there.
Mm-hmm.
Fireplace.
Yeah, fireplace. These lightings are actually this lighting here. You see that? It's actually a wagon wheel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the vibe on this, the style on this one was really, really Western. And we knew that going into it, and we sized the beams accordingly. And Western generally will have a shallower pitch. In this case, we had to make it even more shallow because we didn't want to rise beyond the existing ridge and create a little bump and it looks bad. That sort of thing.
You got some big timbers.
Yeah. Yep. Big timbers in there. Another thing that's noteworthy here is the size. Let's see if I get another picture for you. You kind of see it here. This is very intimate. The couches aren't still getting wet from the back. And I think we're only about 18 feet across. And that really fits the space well. So with patio covers, bigger doesn't always better. If you're looking for something where you really get to chill and hang out with people, 18 feet by, I think the other one here is, you've got a dining table here for your sitting area. Up to 6 people, looks like 8 people. And you're looking at maybe 24 feet, I think it was, somewhere in there. Yes.
So you got a lot of beams where you can see the top of them. They float birds. That's something. So.
You know, I haven't seen it a lot. With one of the projects I did for myself years ago, I took, so like on the top of the beams, you got a beam, just the profile here, the end grain. You can pound some nails, and you put fish line across there, and the birds don't think it's solid enough to hold a nest. But in time, my kids were up on the trusses and screwing around, and the fish line broke, and we never did get nests. And I haven't seen it on old projects when I go back. If you got certain places like seagulls, we have seagulls up there, but you see that on a lot of places. We got spikes,
Yeah, it's not so much the seagull, it's like the swallow.
swallows, yeah. Yeah. We haven't seen it here. Generally.
Make it so your cat can get up there and then they stay quick.
There you
And
go.
everybody's
Put the cat
happy,
out.
everybody's
Yeah.
happy with that.
Yeah, everybody's happy, yeah.
Big timbers, a couple 12 gauge BBs will be fine.
Yeah. Okay, now we're moving to the detached, so more of an event center, pavilion type of thing. How's the lighting? Is that all right? See it all right? Okay. So here's a few more pictures of that. There's a fire pit outside. This is a wedding built especially for weddings. Was that right, Josh? Mhm. And one reason I brought this picture up here is it shows a way to kind of split the difference between all-out timber framing and conventional framing to still get a roof on and not break the bank. You can see here it's a little bit tough. We've got just standard vaulted trusses with paneling on the inside here, with the timbers on the base where you really see it, and you can capture 70% of that rustic vibe and save quite a bit on the roof. The rafters, any valleys you might have, that's where you run into dollars.
I see a question where you got that up. I noticed on all of your posts, you build them on a concrete, you have a little concrete mini column, or you have a little rock one.
But on the post,
Yeah, most of your competition just goes straight down to the dirt. Yours is way better.
mm-hmm.
Is that post stops on top of that concrete with a timber links connected?
Okay, so for you in internet land, the question was, Stuart has worked with us quite a bit and known him for a while. He's asked about these post bases that a lot of people will bring them straight down to the concrete. In Stuart's opinion, that doesn't look as good, and I share the same opinion, Stuart. And there's many different ways to do it. In this case, this is just a piece of wood that is joined to accommodate shrinkage, so it doesn't look too bad when it shrinks, because green wood will shrink. And it's all about, let me just write it down here. Visual weight. That's what the stone is about. That's what this extra wood is about. When we do bring a post down, a naked post, you might say, a lot of times we'll have sometimes it'll be tapered both ways. Actually, it'll be tapered some and kind of have so the post looks like that. Sometimes it's got a swoop to both sides. Sometimes it comes down, swoops like so. And it's about grounding. It's about visual weight. It's nothing to do with structure. It's nothing to do with, that's really what it is. In fact, with this point that Stuart's brought up, say you're putting a stone base around here, well, this is really a pretty cool control knob because you can raise or lower this, raise that or lower it to get your ratio. But by raising and lower this, you can control it. Does it look too high? Or you can bring this up. If you want to, if it looks like there's not enough weight on the top, you can bring it down, and you can kind of trick your eye into seeing beauty. That's kind of the method of the madness. Answer your question?
Yeah, well, you never have straight posts on it, right? Doesn't look like it. Like everything else has something.
There was one job we did a while back. It was pretty crazy because the posts were going down in the back patio. We wanted simple. It's kind of more of a modern style. So we drew it up both ways. One just had straight posts, and the other had just a slight taper on the outside, maybe like 2 inches in the 8-inch wide post, and it looked balanced with the taper. As soon as you go to straight, no matter if the post is bigger, it looks janky and unstable. It's just kind of one of those things. I don't know any more than that. I can't say, but good observation, Stuart.
Does it have anything to do with, we got a lot of water here, running the post all the way down, it's more susceptible to water.
We do that too. That's a real. In fact, there's going to be a business. In fact, Bo, you might be into this. You can start hanging flyers on doors. And every time you see a rock column, many times people will bury that rock column. They'll bury the post in the rock column, and there's rot in there eventually. If you're going to put a box around there, we've told people put breathing holes, one back, one low, where air can circulate, and you're going to be fine. What we encourage people to do is just pour a concrete base and we mount the post to that. But that's another logistics hurdle and a little more money, and the world's moving fast, and we might be dead tomorrow. So, and so I think there's a big business repairing that stuff coming up. It's kind of a cool project. Too bad I never built it. This is here's your straight post going down, but they're 16 by 16. I mean, it's just gargantuan. And the beauty in this place, this was done for UL testing, and they had a competition in the United States. They had a pot of money for improving facilities, and so they were making a picnic area or an event area and a lunch area for employees. And so we got an electrician we knew about this, and said, hey, you might be able to get a pretty fat job. It's kind of risky, but hey, you want to do it? So we drew this up. Went out there and looked at it, and thinking a little bit long house like Indian and Northwest, and big like Timberline. It's not very complicated, but because pieces are so big, I can imagine it would be a magnificent space to be under. So maybe one of you guys want us to build it for you.
You say that was for UL, they didn't use that as testing.
No, this was,
Okay.
no, this was just event stuff for them.
It's for testing their barbecuing skills.
I figured, yeah.
What's that?
Fire.
It does look better than rock, yeah. Mm-hmm. Even that, yeah.
Even your little thing up front.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's the last picture there. Here's a picture of a job we did at the coast. This was all cedar. With cedar, pieces have to be 30% bigger because cedar is quite a bit weaker. Cedar does resist rot and that sort of thing, so there's a plus to it. And as you'll see here, there's letting it go gray. It's over there to the beach. So that's kind of cool.
You guys don't do too much with cedar though, do you?
Not as much. I mean, it's just more expensive. It's not as strong. So your capacity for it, and when it comes down to people are doing their projects, very rare is the client that can take their first choice for everything. You might decide to splurge here and save there, but people that say top line, top line, top line, top line, all the way down are very rare. It just doesn't happen. One thing that's kind of cool here is that you see the shakes underneath, just like the barns of old. See that? Mm-hmm. Cedar shakes, the whole thing cedar. Here you can see the top view here. There's steps going down, and so this was kind of a destination, but it was kind of close, so it kind of hits that middle ground. It's detached. One little design element and style thing. The arches are soft and kind of like the coast. And this gable here wouldn't have had to be there, but if we go back, you see the steps coming down. If that was straight across, there's no gable to kind of welcome you, then it would feel like you're kind of ducking down, even though you have 10 foot of headroom. So just kind of like a pull you into it type of welcome. And here you can see the view they have, shelter looking out. Then this is still incomplete, they're not really using it all the way. I know they intend to put it's probably in now, some sort of fireplace on that end for blocking the wind. And for heat, yeah, of course. And here's our last pavilion we're going to show you. David has been there. Anyone else? This is at Bethany Vineyards, right off of. Anyway, one thing that's really noteworthy about this project is it's got the big wow factor here, but then over here where the seating and whatnot goes back to the post with the flat ceiling. It's like that. So it's when you're off in your groups around tables, it's cozy. They've got the heaters here, and they've got shades that roll down in between the posts. So and this place hosts weddings and big events. So they're all set up for that. And there's a picture of the big wow. Okay, just to kind of pull this together now, you've seen attached and detached patio covers and pavilions. Help me out, let's start off. What are some pros about being attached?
I have a question about being
Okay.
attached. So the question would be like, if you already have a contract or a building plan and you're putting timber frame in there, if you're marrying timber frame to conventional, there's probably something that has to be done there in the engineering to make that attach. Is that correct?
You're talking with a new build? Yeah, so the question was, with having a pavilion or a roof cover attached with a new build, how do you marry timber framing with conventional building methods? And there's engineering involved, but it's not rocket science. Most engineers roll with it pretty well. And we have our engineers that are dialed into all of our little connections and things that we do. Josh, you got anything?
Typically, there's pretty simple integration between the two, between the conventional and the timber framing. So with the attachment, there's just beam pockets, just like regular framing would have beam pockets. So where the timber's attached to the conventional framing, you just have a beam pocket there and it would attach in that beam pocket.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you were gonna put a patio roof cover on, attached, what are some pros and cons for being attached?
I think a pro would be, you don't have to walk outside to get under it.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
covered.
So you're covered. Yep.
Aesthetically speaking, it might look better.
Yeah. So good looks. It might add more real and more value. A detached pavilion is going to be great for some people, but the bigger market.
If you don't have a big lot, if you don't have a lot of room,
Mhm.
it's better
Yeah.
to attach.
Yeah, easy to fit. Okay. What else? How about for detached? What are some good things about that?
Keep all your company away from the house.
Okay. Okay.
You can make it larger without making your house look small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably not as many roof pitch issues.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it could be even more of a destination.
Yeah.
You can try to pay for it with wedding events.
True.
What was that? You can try to pay for
You
it?
can try to pay for it with wedding events.
Yeah, you go.
Rent it out.
Rent it out.
Yeah.
I myself, I'm turning an old shop into kind of an event center with a pickleball court and a gym and a gathering area. Mainly for myself and our children, but probably end up accepting donations if there's, I don't want to get into charging in a business and whatever, but if there's a donation box and people want to use it, help pay for some of the maintenance, that's great. Okay. Okay, so in summary, you can help me out as far as dealing with what? There was design versus, you guys remember?
Dollars.
Budget.
Yep. What was another one? Grabbing onto that buoy and letting go.
Ideas.
Yeah, don't leave ideas on the table. And the last one came from Michael Porter, the strategy guy.
First idea is
Just say no. Nancy, Megan. No, yeah, just decide what you're not going to do. Okay, and the how is pretty easy to summarize with a smiley face, right? And then why, basically for this application, extension of your living room or connecting with people, that sort of thing. All right. So, at the end of it, we have a little question and answer after this, but I would like to hear from all of you, what was the biggest takeaway from your part of it, just for hearing and improving? Let's start out.
I'm more interested in technical stuff. I like the house joints.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were with the tour and Josh showing you how joints, that
I'm
was,
more into technical stuff. Yeah.
right, okay, technical stuff. Stuart, what was the takeaway for you at the time here?
I like the concrete base, but I like the right part.
Okay, that goes, all right. Right on. How about yourself? All the joinery. Steve?
Oh, everything.
Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to be specific here. I like the way the designs, the posts and the beams fit. Like you
Okay.
didn't have two small posts for the beams and vice versa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So balancing.
I like
and getting
balancing
things
it.
fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about yourself?
Well, I thought it was a good idea to, we're talking about putting all the ideas on the table and then, not getting stuck on the first one.
Yeah. So don't leave ideas on the table. Yourself?
A lot of stuff today. I like the beams, I like the designs. I really like your arches.
Okay,
You got an
beam
arch,
design,
you got an
arches.
arch or a curve on everything.
It might look that way.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's something people really like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bo?
It's pretty interesting that cedar's got to be 30% bigger.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I like hearing the reason behind certain designs, a little bit of the method behind the madness,
Okay, here a little bit of the reasoning behind why things land where they do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Dave?
I love the smell of the wood.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smell the wood.
Good answer.
Uh-huh. Alrighty, so we have a list of questions. Lucas, you want to just fire them off? You may have entered these, whatever, but
You don't have them written down?
I do not have them written down.
Okay, I'll pull them up here. Okay, anchoring frame to foundation.
Hey, Taylor, how do I get another page up here? Fresh page. Okay, there we go. Okay.
The whiteboard's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is kind of
I'm
cool.
glad I'm not running it. It'd be a disaster.
Okay, the question is
Anchoring the timber frame to the foundation.
anchoring timber frame to the foundation. So So there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, so to speak. The simplest way is, so you have the foundation. The post generally will sit on the inside of the wall, as you can see. So a lot of times you just have a strap that comes up right from the inside of the foundation and nails to the backside of the post. That's probably the simplest.
Is the post off the foundation, or what do you mean?
Well, the exterior wall is going to sit exactly on the foundation, and the post generally is exposed to the inside. And so that's a strap method that's really easy. With exterior posts, we'll have a piece of all thread. It takes a special coupling. It has a hole in it which receives a oblong or just a circle piece of metal that's split. It has a couple wedges in there. Then the Allen scoop, this will insert. It'll insert in your post. That comes around that. You have a hole drilled in the side of your post, and it slips in, and the Allen scoop turns around, and it expands that. This will expand, and it's more about uplift than anything.
But isn't there a little space below the post itself?
Yeah, you want to hold the wood off of concrete, for sure.
How far?
If there's going to be splashing water and that sort of thing, I mean, an inch isn't too much.
Oh.
And then you hide it with some trim, or you can use chinking, log cabin chinking.
Okay.
If you're looking for kind of a more smoother, and that'll span a huge gap. I mean, you can do, but it looks kind of clean that way. If you like when we fit the stone, a lot of times we use chinking.
Yeah.
As something there.
So what's the best insulation material for timber framing?
Spray on foam.
Yeah.
Yep. Who here knows what SIPs are? Yep. So we've kind of stayed away from SIPs, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But in principle, SIPs are like a refrigerator. There's no thermal bridging. Everything is done. But so with the spray-on foam, you really get a tight fit. You're not getting any air infiltration, just like a SIP. The only thing spray-on foam is missing is thermal bridging. And if you want to address that, you just simply put on a layer of insul board on the outside of the home, and then your furring strips and then siding. And you got to be at a 9.5 if the SIP is at 10. And then so the payoff for the SIPs and the extra expense is pretty slow at that point. The other thing that we've noticed with SIPs is the complications of lead time. Really makes a lot of extra work. We had one job that got held off 6 months because they had to have a special, was it a tinfoil or something on there for fire?
The roof panels got sent out as 6-inch panels instead of 12-inch thick panels.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So
6-inch or 12-inch roof panels, big difference, yes.
Yeah.
So they had the foundation in the ground, and they had already in the fall, and so it pushed everything off until spring. There just wasn't enough time to get it all dried in the fall, and the whole house got pushed off.
On a really simple house, SIPs have a fighting chance. And as soon as you get any complexity, it's game over. And then the thing I don't like about the Northwest is, say you have a cider that doesn't waterproof correctly, or a roofer that has a problem. As soon as that little half-inch layer of OSB gets any little bit of rot, bang, the structure's toast. That is it's like an I-beam. It's like cutting through top of an I-joist. You don't do it because that's the tension and the compression there, and you're done, baby. So that means taking the roof off. If you've got stud framing or whatnot, well, it's not quite that drastic. And then there's also if somebody makes a change, you want to move a window, this or that or the other thing, just like that quote earlier about plans are worthless, but planning is everything. As people move forward with their builds and their projects, they have other things that, oh, I wish I'd have done this. Well, if you're dialed in with SIP, that's a big deal. I mean, you can't just dance with new ideas. So that's kind of why we are, I wouldn't say anti-SIP, but I wouldn't recommend it. My brother asked me, type of thing, right?
Okay, what about maintenance of timber frame homes, like stain, cleaning, and cracks?
Stain, cleaning, and cracks, maintenance of timber frame homes. Really, just don't let your stain go too long. That's restain things. We're using a product that does not need to be stripped off. There's a product, it used to be called Seconds, and now it's named something else. It's kind of a bulletproof product for about 5 or 7 years, but then when you want to add more, you got to strip it off, and that's messy. This is what it's called Timber Pro coatings. This stuff, you just keep adding more. If you let it go too long where it gets black, well, now you got to start stripping stuff off and get down to wood to make it look right. But the way this works, we get one coat on in the shop generally, and then when the painter is doing the house, they get 2 more coats. Once you hit 3 coats, that's when you're good for, depending on the sun, but even in direct sun and rain, you're 3 years before you have to add another one. If you were my brother, I'd tell you just do it every year. Just make it part of your plan. The post where they see the sun. Just add another coat and just keep on going. You never have any problems. It's not that big a deal.
Learning joinery and tools needed to frame.
Okay. Well, we have an application online. Come on down. That's kind of a big question to address right here. Then the joinery is just general. There was one other question I seen earlier about which we can address, which was about joining posts in a corner and maybe rafters and beams. Should we do that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the last questions that wasn't answered was about cracks.
Oh, about cracks. Yes, as far as the maintenance. The best way to do that is to use free of heart timbers. You won't get big cracks. If you're going to use hardwood, one face is going to check. And the reason for that is when you have a log around the racetrack, the further you get out, the more shrinkage you're going to have. And the funny thing about wood is it shrinks twice as much along the racetrack as it does perpendicular to the racetrack. That's sometimes why you see a dry beam or post that has grain like so. It eventually looks like this. Let's see if I can do this right here. Anyway, it gets shorter here, than it gets kind of odd a square. But so a log, if you see a log laying down somewhere in this face, because the center doesn't have very much shrinkage, and the outside has a ton, you're going to see a big check to the heart. And when you do a box heart beam, that same thing is going to happen. You have a big check somewhere. And if, say you're looking down the beam here, say that your checks kind of go at an angle like that, that's called slope grain, and it's going to check big just in periodic spots as it moves down the log with the post or the beam. Every time that wood cracks open, because it's at an angle, it's going to be twisting the other side. That's where the corkscrew action comes in. And as far as if you have hardwood and are worried about the cracks, with maintenance, I would first just think about getting stain inside there. If there's really a problem, I would look at the log cabin chinking and trying to match colors a little bit. Okay, I'm going to add one more here. Okay, so we're looking at joinery at post corners.
Yeah, joinery as well as bracket options to connect post.
Okay, the bracket options are easy. There's some catalogs that are just simple L brackets, for hitting the corner. And that could be just a 45 joint, post then coming down. And then there's, if you want to get ornate and do stuff, you can have brackets that connect around the corner if you like. There's a lot of options if you're getting custom metalwork done. As far as joinery on corners, one thing that's really worked for us well is, draw kind of from top down here. Is to bring the post all the way up. And then Josh showed you guys the housing joints. And you just have the housing joints on top. The housing joints, and you can just put a strap that connects the two. That's a clean way to do it. If you are set on the post going underneath, you can use a little bit of that same post-based deal where you have a pin that goes inside with an offset that goes up. And in that case, you would have a half lap type of application with a bolt then that goes through the post and down.
Simpson now makes a rod with a bunch of holes in the side for that application.
Okay, yeah, Simpson makes a product that does that.
Do you guys use mini Simpson?
Yeah. Simpson?
Exactly.
So just for reference, Simpson is what architects use.
Yeah.
Just kidding, you guys.
I know.
You're gonna have to teach us.
Yeah. That's what this is all about.
Oak
Really
pegs.
happy here.
You guys like to use oak pegs.
Oak pegs. And for reference, as far as one question, I believe was about engineering. Engineering is really the same. It's just a different set of standards. One, for reference, an 1.25" oak peg is equivalent in shear strength to your standard mild steel bolts that you buy, like anchor bolts and of a 1/2 inch diameter. So 1/2 inch diameter steel bolt, same strength as 1.25" oak peg. Okay, so then the next one was the rafter to beam. So there's a lot of old school joinery methods to say you had a rafter coming down this beam, but none of the joinery shows. And the best way to do this, you bring your rafter down. Your rafter actually, instead of your bird's mouth dropping on the outside of the beam, it drops a 1/2 inch to the inside of the beam. So it kind of looks like that. And then you just simply have a timber lock or a GRK screw, some sort of a lag, right down. That's the best way. And that's going back to that housing joint. So looking from the side here, this is your beam. The rafter goes like so. The butt point of that rafter actually goes in the beam a little bit, because that's where it's going to look ugly, shrink. The beam's going to shrink away there, and then even trying to get that fit just so tight is really tough with rafters. Yeah. And then you can put 1 or 2 lags right through there.
Is there any traditional way to do that?
There is. You can drive a peg at an angle. Sometimes, and if you're doing traditional, the old timber frames, they didn't believe in overhangs a lot. Just kind of the old timber frame. So you would see stuff like where you have a little bevel, the roof is going to go, and the rafter come up like so, and they would put a tenon that jumps in along the grade here and drive a wedge through, or a peg through like so.
Interesting.
It's very labor intensive that's if you don't have metal fasteners, right?
Yeah.
Speaking to that a little bit, I watched a video on Japanese timber framing. And we've all idolized the Japanese timber framers for all these years, and yet these high-end Japanese timber framers all use screws where it's not seen as well. So don't feel embarrassed.
They're
Yeah.
pragmatic people.
Can you repeat that, Bert?
Yeah, so Josh commented that for years he's appreciated the Japanese, the precision with their framing, their timber framing. And then one day he found out they use screws where they're not seen. And he felt better. Anything else on the Lucas? I mean, you guys have questions, you're free to ask too.
No, we're done here.
Okay, we're all done. Good deal. Well, and nice time with you, and we'll look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very informative. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
All right, there's more food and goodies there. And does on the last one we gave out some books. Does anyone not have our second edition book?
I don't think I do.
Okay.
Anyone that wants a book, let me
Yeah.
know. I've got
And even if they do, one to give to their friend.
Yeah, I want to give
That's
a
a
friend.
great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Great idea.
Yep.
You bet. All right.